Welcome to Catch Her Spark with Jen Maldonado. These are conversations with women who are building meaningful careers, stepping into leadership, and designing life on their own.
Hi, everyone. Today I am super excited. We have this person that is going to be with us. She was supposed to be a doctor, then life happened. And instead of giving up, she gave everything she had to something bigger than herself. Our guest today has built businesses, crossed 4 continents, and broke ceiling most people didn't even know were there. But none of that is why she's here. She's here because somewhere right now there's a woman holding her family together with one hand, building her dream with the other one, and guess what? Quietly wondering if any of this is worth it. This conversation is for that woman. My guest today is Tolu Akindunni, entrepreneur, founder, and the woman who decided that if the door didn't exist, she will build it herself. Tolu, welcome.
Welcome, Jen. That's a fantastic introduction. Even I'm like, oh, who's that lady? So thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Oh my God, I'm so honored to have you. I think that people can read what I call your resume. You're fantastic. You have a great story, but I think that sometimes the out there, the online world doesn't allow you to see who you are. And I'm like, I need to bring the essence of these women to a few sentences. So they want to get to know you, Tolu. But tell me about what you do, a little bit about your story and how that you became an entrepreneur.
So you're right. I actually wanted to study medicine, and that was way back. So I had 2 options. I was either going to be a medical doctor or I was going to be a microbiologist. And my parents said, no, go study medicine because it was more professional. So I kind of went on that journey myself. But somewhere along the lines, I started to find my own way, my own interests. And I did microbiology for a first degree with the intention of going to medical school. But by the time I was done with 4 years, I already got myself into the digital media at the time, creating graphics, 3D animation, video editing, and all that sort of stuff. And then I went back and said, maybe not medicine, maybe biomedical engineering, because it had a bit more of tech in there. But that was slapped down straight away. I was like, what is that? Because my parents didn't understand what it was. My dad is a civil engineer. My mom was also a computer scientist. So it was like, what is that? What is that? Anyways, long story short, I decided to go down the path of digital interactive media. And that opened up doors for me. So with that, I went into digital marketing, IT, technology, innovation, and that really took me all around the world. I was in the UK at the time. I'm Nigerian born, but studied in the UK and spent most of my adult life. I got to work in the UAE. I got to experience the Far East, and I also got to work in Africa. I had my own digital marketing agency in Africa. And it was fun. And but so for me, entrepreneurship was always a part of my lifestyle. It wasn't anything. It wasn't separate. Investments, entrepreneurship was something that was just natural. I always had something to do on the side. And so that's how the medical dream just gradually fizzled away more in towards innovation, entrepreneurship, and venture development. And that's what brought me here to the US. I got married. I married someone who's also an entrepreneur, has multiple businesses. I got into the US and started to run our jewelry and gemstone business. So we source natural gemstones and we make them into high value jewelry. So I got into that, and that's it. So it's kind of I've been involved in lots of different things. I've run different sizes of businesses. I've been in the corporate world. I've worked for a large organization, Saint-Gobain, which is a French manufacturer. I've worked with Emirates Airlines. So I've kind of been around it quite a bit, helping to drive innovation and venture development. But at the same time, by virtue of my surrounding environment, my family, running a business is just something that I also naturally do.
Wow. We're going to start. I think that sometimes one of the things I love about Steve Jobs specifically is what he says about you can never connect the dots looking forward. You
Mm-hmm.
can only connect the dots looking backward.
Mm.
As you look through your journey, you have done something incredible right now that is shifting entrepreneurs' life.
Mm-hmm.
What are those, I will say, two or three key points that from those experiences, from that journey that lead you to what you do today?
I think it's first of all being very clear with where you want to go. Because I had a dream, I had a vision board when I was 35 that by the time I was 40, I would have my business running up and running and established. I thought I was going to go in a different direction. I thought I was going to go more towards the fashion industry and, fabrics and all that. And that didn't pan out. But what happened was I got married and my husband was like, jewelry. I was like, oh, jewelry is kind of related to fashion. So I just kind of went down that path a little bit. But I also had something in me that wanted to support the community that I was from and tell the stories and the brilliance of the African and the community, not the African in the diaspora. So it didn't have to really be just from the African continent. And so that stayed with me. And eventually I decided to set up All Things Black and Beautiful, which is a nonprofit and a Black Business Life podcast. And so for me, it had always been with me. And what I've done is collected experience through the years. And those experiences have contributed to growing what I have today. So the first thing is being very clear about your vision, being very clear about where you want to go. The second thing is don't be close to experiences, right? Because what I'm doing today is actually easier because of the things that I've learned along the way. I've worked in a TV studio. I've done post-production. I've done editing. I have sold products. I've been on there holding products on the street and say, hey, come and buy. I've been, like I said, in the corporate world. I've reported to board of directors. I've done investor relations. I've done so many things along the way and those were just work experience for different reasons that eventually now I've been a project manager. Eventually now in what I'm doing, I'm using those skills that have been gathered over the years. So the second point I'd say is don't close yourself. When there's an opportunity to get involved and do and learn, do it because you don't know where that is going to come in handy. And that will make it self-sufficient. And the third thing I would say is enjoy the journey, right? We sometimes get too focused on that vision. Even though I said be clear, it doesn't mean that the outcome today is going to define who you are. That is just a snapshot in time. There's been situations where I really felt like I couldn't find myself. I told you I moved to the US during COVID. I got married. I had a child. I was lost in all that. And I couldn't find myself. I couldn't remember who I was. I was like, it took a lot to figure that out. Was that a failure? No, it was a snapshot in time. And I had to go dip down to rise up again. So those are the three things I'd say. Have a clear vision, collect experience as you go. And, the fact that you're here today doesn't mean that that's your definition of who you are. It's just a snapshot in time.
Wow. I mean, you give so many gold nuggets right there, right? Have clarity, be willing to create your vision and then embark in the journey to have those experiences. I love how you say that because what you're sharing is don't put yourself in a box. Be willing to experience the journey so you can figure it out. And to your point, like, yes, you're in this step, but that doesn't define you. You will continue your journey, which I love it. I love it. That was golden nuggets right there. I think that a lot of people think that they will go and get this right, do it once and not figure different experiences. And I think to your point, it doesn't allow them to become who they can become by having these experiences. So
yeah, absolutely. And, it's easier said in hindsight, right? Because in the process, you are nervous, you're anxious, you're looking at missed targets or missed goals. But in hindsight, you're like, well, even those missed targets were redirections towards the outcome that you have today. And it's important to enjoy that process because you're not going to get it back. You're not going to get that time back. I'm not going to get the time where I was home with the little one when she was 1 or 2 years old. And I was working through the midnight trying to get the jewelry website up and running. It's not going to happen again. So, then it was horrible. I hated it, all that. But now I'm like, oh yeah, we did that. We actually did that. And so that's the thing. You enjoy the process.
Yes, I love it. Enjoy the process, enjoy the journey. I think that one of the biggest challenges for high performing women's and people driven by results is that sometimes we're so focused on the outcome that we forget to embrace the journey and the process that really help us to become that person we need to be.
Yes.
So I love that. I love that. Now, in this journey, I have two questions about two different things. But the first one is right now, you are helping other people. You
Oh.
have created this space where people can join us. Can you tell us about why you ended doing this type of work or this line of work of what you do? And share us a little bit more about your community too.
Yes. So All Things Black and Beautiful is the name of the nonprofit. And originally, when I came, I wasn't set out to have a nonprofit. I wanted to amplify Black-owned businesses because when I got here, I realized that everybody was starting a business, but it was like, oh, how are you going to get yourself visible and get yourself to scale? Also, I have experience, like I said, with working with corporates, manufacturers, and people who can scale at an industrial level. So me coming into the community and like all these small businesses, I'm like, you're not going to get anywhere if you're just selling in a farmer's market. You've got to be out there to sell to the larger. I mean, you could, but it's not. You've got to have some retail partnerships, distribution. Bigger dreams. So I set out to address that need. And I didn't even want to be a nonprofit. I just wanted to be, provide a support and at the same time be self-sustained. So the idea of going to ask for funds as a nonprofit was something that I just didn't want to do. And then gradually, as we went on, so it was coaching, support, and then I got involved with sponsoring organizations like the banks, saying, "Oh, come and teach at this masterclass, or come and teach here." And they were like, "Well, why are you not a nonprofit?" I'm like, "Well, because I don't want to be a nonprofit." And they were like, "Well, we'll work with you more if you were a nonprofit." So then I started to see the opportunities, and to create a social enterprise, you could either be an LLC or you could be a nonprofit, but the nonprofit vehicle created more opportunities. So that kind of reframed my thinking also because I can tap into community support. Because if we're really doing this through collaboration and community, there is that element of people also giving back into the mission as well. And the nonprofit structure creates that opportunity for them to give back in kind, in cash, and in other ways as well. So that was what set up that vision. The third part was, apart from the teaching and the education and the resources, exactly what you're doing right now on the podcast. Representation drives aspiration. When you see somebody else who has been through your journey and walked the same path as you are, that journey becomes attainable. So the reason I eventually set up a podcast was for that reason, to tell the stories, because I was seeing, for me, it's two worlds. There's two worlds. One world is those who are doing really well, and one world is those who are struggling and making bad decisions. So how can we influence the choices that you're making by just seeing someone else who did it right and providing that? So I have a podcast called the Black Business Life Podcast, and that's what we do. We talk about these stories. And underpinning the podcast is our community, because we also, through the education, through the resources, is a community that women, men, or people of color can come together and learn and grow together and do business together. We encourage a lot of collaborations, a lot of joint application for grants, for contracts, for RFPs, so that we can all grow together. So that's why I said it's very similar here, because we're talking to women, and it's like, well, if women just get together, if women just work together more simultaneously and stop competing with each other, there is so much that we can do together, and it's a shared success. So that's the ethos. So that's how I kind of continue to innovate on this path, and continue to build a community. So that's how it all happened. It didn't happen by In fact, it was going the opposite of what I actually was thinking of having my own consultancy business, but, but that didn't materialize. Instead, it was more community driven, and that's where I got to.
I love it. I love it. I mean, there's a time in life that you have achieved certain success and
Mm-hmm.
suddenly things lead you to pay it forward. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that that has been the path that you are sharing, right? You have done very well. You have learned your lessons, and
Mm-hmm.
now everything led you to this moment to support other people in your community, to
Mm-hmm.
really join and give them the opportunity, show them what they can aspire to with role models, and see that they can do it too if they choose to, which I
Yeah.
love that, right? Because choices and commitments are so critical. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people try, but those who really commit and are not willing to fail because they don't want to stop, they just want to continue and do their best. I think those are the people who really succeed.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you. Thank you for doing that. Now, in that journey, I think that things start changing.
Mm.
And in those changes, I know that success meaning a lot of time changes. What does success mean to you now that it wasn't used to?
That's a very good question. So, if you had asked me in my career, my early career, what success was, I would have said, "Oh yeah, I want to get to management level. I want to be this, high power, successful woman." And I suppose there's still some elements of that, but for me, success has become a much more rounded story, right? It's one first. I first of all realized that leadership is not just about directing others. There is an element of directive leadership, but leadership has a lot to do with influence. So if you're able to influence others, and they like you and they believe in you, they'll do what you want to do. So with that mindset, success has gone beyond acquisition of titles, acquisition of roles. It's for me, it's more impact. So for me, success is defined by those I can impact. And those that I can contribute into their success. So while I'm doing all the nonprofit work, it's not like I've sat down doing nothing else on the other side. I still do work within the corporate sector. I still do a lot of investment because it's the funds that you generate from all the other activities that give you the opportunity to invest into others. So for me, success has become a lot more about those I can impact and those I can take on the journey with me, right? And that's where leadership comes in. I'm not just trying to be a leader for myself or my own glory, but a leader to help others also go along in that journey as well. So for me, it's changed. It's changed a lot, and it's because of life's lessons, and also me realizing that. I think I realized at some point that why am I hitting a seemingly glass ceiling? It's because I'm trying to do it alone, and I had to realize that, well, I need to go ask for help. I need to speak to other women. I need to go pour my sorrows and my heart to people who have been through the same situation and learned from how they've done it. So if I needed to do that, I remember coming to Dallas and there was a number of women that were very instrumental. Like, come have coffee with me. Come and let me hear your story out. Let me hear you out. Okay, this is what I do. And because they were open and it was regardless of industry. It wasn't like they were in my industry. Some of them were even there's a beauty pageant queen who asked me
Wow.
they're just interested. They were invested. So for me, when I look at them, I look at them, and there was a particular woman who she's late now, but she called us and she said, I like what you're doing. That was for the NABO, National Association of Women Business Owners. And she said, well, I'm gonna make a donation. She's a long time member, and also I'm going to support you. I'm not just going to make a donation for this year. I'm going to make a donation for next year. Unfortunately, she didn't even live to see the following year. But I'm like, for somebody to have that heart, a woman, to support the women business owners in her community, that, she didn't live to see her donation in the following year, but she did it. For me, that is success. That's impact. You're making impact that goes beyond you. And so for me, that's what I'm working towards as an individual, is the legacy that outlives me. Like, I don't have to be there, but it's telling its own story.
I love this. And thank you for sharing that story because I think that's one of the things, Tolu, that differentiate women on how women do business, how
Mhm.
women invest, how women make decisions. Because when we're thinking is, yes, for example, if we invest, yes, we want to make money like everybody else. But beyond that, we want to ensure that we impact our communities, that we leave a legacy, we leave something better. Whatever
Mhm.
it is that we do, yes, we do well, but also it matters because
Mhm.
we're leaving this. I love that you mentioned that story because I think that's what leads real
Mm.
change in
Mm.
this world that needs a lot of feminine touch, right? To
Mhm.
we
Yes.
need a lot of that, a lot of nurturing and feminine touch to start shifting certain perspectives, right? Now, I have a question, and this is more a personal thing because I don't know if you deal with this, but what I find fascinating about women that have reached your level, certain levels of success, is usually the ones that's still saying yes to everything. The board seat, the speaking engagement, the mentorship, the business opportunity, all of it. And from the outside, it looks like a lot of abundance. But I wonder sometimes if it's actually the opposite. Like maybe saying yes to everything is actually a way of avoiding a much harder question. And that question is, what do I actually want my energy building towards now? So I'm curious, Tolu, when you look at where you spend your energy today, is it a choice or are you going for the momentum? What are those decisions? Because those decisions can set the future path. How do you look at it?
Good question. Good question. I think I also had to do that self-evaluation myself. In fact, it's an ongoing thing. And I mentioned that I made a decision to just focus on a nonprofit right now. So I've also got an LLC, a consultancy LLC, but eventually I decided, you know what, just put that on the burner because there's so much more going on. As I said, I still do work in the corporate sector. I've got my nonprofits, and then we've got the podcast as well. So it's a lot. And the mission for that is very clear. It's very clear. And so I constantly do that evaluation to say, where do I want to put my energy? What phase am I in right now? And for me, the phase I'm in right now is not really the promotions and the accolades. The phase I'm in right now is to sow those seeds in the ground for the future. And so that has defined what I do. It is very important to continually evaluate. There's because there's so many opportunities, speaking engagements, teaching. I can't. I just realized I can't teach enough. I teach at business master classes a year. There's more to be done. I will burn out if I continue to do that. So for me, that's one of the reasons why the structure has become important. The volunteers have become important. The succession plan has become important because I'm like, well, I'm not going to do this for the rest of my life, but I want to build up a team and people, and that's what I'm doing currently, so that they can take that energy, they can take the vision and run with it. So your point, yes, you could say yes to everything at the beginning because you think, oh yeah, this sounds great. But then you have to go back and constantly realign with who you are. So when you show up on the scene, you're showing up as, this person. And it's a constant activity of chopping and changing, cutting this off, saying no. You got to say no. And that's what I do. Where when there's no alignment, I'm like, oh yeah, it's fine, it's good, but how does it contribute to the outcome right now? So I'm talking about the next 18 to 24 months. If that's not contributing to the 18 to 24 months, then it goes to the back burner, and then we can look at it as another project later.
I love it. I love it. I love your point. It's about realignment, right? Every time we have to realign, reassess what is our priorities. I think in the past you could have planned 5 years from now. Every time when people ask me, what is your goal 5 years from now? And I'm like, this is going to be an interesting conversation. But to your point, having that vision and that reassessment continuously, it always helped me to figure out, is this is what I want to do now, or this is something that goes in the back burner. So I love that you say that. And we want to do it all. It's just we can't do it at the same time.
Yeah, something, and I know people say, there is no such thing as a work-life balance. If you listen to Shonda Rhimes, she's kind of dispelled that myth. But even at that, you're still making a conscious decision. You're saying, okay, well, I'm going to do this, understanding the sacrifice that the rest of your family, or it could even just be your community, is making to help you achieve that. And it's only for a period of time. Understanding that sacrifice is only for a period of time. It is not forever. You have to give it a time limit and say, okay, well, after this point, I should have moved to the next phase or the next phase, so that they, whoever it is, your children, your husband, your immediate family, can also start to reap the benefits of that sacrifice they're making. So we cannot women, we like to live a long life of sacrifice, but sacrifice should be time bound, because there is a time to reap. There is a time to sow and there is a time to reap. And in your sowing season, sow and go all out in sowing. In the time to reap, plan to reap, and don't go start sowing something new again.
Yes, I have been guilty of that. I confess, where I want to do two things at the same time, and it's like, oh my God, this is getting really tough, really tough. And to your point, prioritization, the sacrifices, you have to be very conscious of those choices and priorities, because if not, you paid a price. And I think that sometimes too, it's an opportunity for us, as you mentioned, to develop a succession plan too. It's like, hey, I want to do this, but I might not have to do this. I have to put someone else that helped me do it. And I think that that's really, really important to take in as in a leadership position, right? That it's about creating other leaders too, and giving the opportunity to other people to develop themselves too.
Yeah, and women naturally nurture. So we do this every day, at home, in our jobs. We're probably the more nurturing management team members. But it's just that sometimes when it comes to business ownership or something that we are genuinely passionate about, because of that nurturing nature, the same way you nurture your child and then the child is heading out to college, you struggle to let them go. It's that same thing. It takes a different kind of skill to let go and let live. We're natural nurturers, but we also have to discipline ourselves to stop and let the thing go, because it is mature enough. Yes.
Yes, definitely, definitely. Now, it's an entire journey, and you mentioned a couple of things I want to ask you about, because now we're talking about looking forward, right? And you have built businesses, cross continents, sat on boards, raised a family, and girl, that's a lot. That's a lot happening at the same time. So I'm very curious with everything that you are carrying, and I'm asking for me and for other women, have you ever found yourself thinking about what the next chapter looks like, not just professionally, but financially? You also mentioned about investing. Like, what does well look like for you beyond the work you do every day? And also, what kind of investments, when you are looking at, you really enjoy that align with who you are, Tolu?
Good question. Wow, you got some fantastic questions over there. Well, first of all, I would say I've been investing since I was in college.
Wow.
So I've been, my family that's a mindset that my dad has baked into all of us. So some of the outcomes I'm seeing today were seeds that were sown 20 years ago. And so the way I look at it is always looking at what the next 20 years is going to be. It sounds like a daunting number. But I am I know the kind of investor I am. I'm not a high risk investor. So I am medium to low risk, just because I have so many other areas that I throw risk at starting a business is high risk. So even getting married is high risk. But so when I'm just joking, but you know what I mean. It's like you just don't know
Yes.
what you're going to expect. You just throw
Yes.
yourself at it.
I've been there, believe me.
So for me, when it comes to thinking ahead, I take a very long term view, and I think about seeds that I can put into the ground that will make way for me in the future. And what I do with that regard is, like I said, the business of doing, so the business and the everyday running. Yes, you need money to survive. Yes, you need money to look good. You need money to run your business. You need to do that. That is the day to day, and that keeps the lights on. But one thing I'm very disciplined about is always holding something back, and I call it paying myself. I'm not paying myself a new purse or shoes. Even if it's $150, it's going into this account, and that account is creating wealth. So it's a mindset I've always had. Even if it's $50, goes into an account. That account is buying stocks and shares. It's accumulating to a significant amount, and then it's creating wealth. Because when you really want to make significant life changes, it is not the $100 or the $200 or the $2,000 that you have in your savings account that will make those changes. It's you need to have assets, and you need to have it in a significant amount. But those assets don't accumulate overnight. They accumulate over time. And so I generally play the long game. So I do a lot of stocks and shares investment. I invest into real estate. I also have insurance policy for that reason, over time, because you're looking at compound interest, and compound interest is really where the magic happens. So I always encourage women, like, I have a lot of friends who ask me this question, oh, I want to start investing now. I'm like, well, yes, now is a good time to start, but also start educating your children to start investing when they get out of college or while they're in college. So that's one thing I would say that has really helped me. So the future that I want to create, some of it has already started years ago, but also even right now, I'm thinking, well, what do I want to look like when I'm 50? Do I want to keep working? What do I want to do? Do I want to travel around the world and just speak? And for me to feel that, yes, I'm doing the day-to-day of business, but I'm putting aside something in my purse and towards my investment account that is contributing towards that future. And that is compounding interest in a way that money begins to work for me. So if you think about money as a tool, the same way you have Zoom as a tool of communication and Gmail as a tool for email writing, money is that tool. And money can be multiplied. And so when you think about it that way, if money sits $50 sitting in your bank account or 10 cups of Starbucks coffee,
Yes,
could become the building block for your investment estate. And I've seen it work in many, many, many ways. A good example, I said $50, right? I never had stocks and shares in the US. And I couldn't really afford it because I had my hands dipped into so many things. So I couldn't say, oh, $2,000 go into, I've got the 401k and I've got all the retirement savings and stuff, but I just didn't have extra. I started with $50 every month, just going towards my Robinhood account. And then buying micro shares in Amazon, micro shares in Tesla, all the companies I know of, because, I understand the tech industry. And honestly, $50 somehow became $8,000, and that's not just the $50 coming in, it's the value of the shares doubling. Some of them doubled, some of them increased. So when I needed money for and just $50, just a little experiment I did. Okay, let me just sell this. I just needed 1,000 here. And I'm like, even if I sold 1,000, it doesn't even hurt how much I put it in as the initial investment. That is creating wealth because you didn't have to do anything. The efforts was just as little as moving $50 from your bank account into Robinhood. Yeah. And then you got $1,000 for doing nothing versus you having to go sell this, that. And that's, so I said, the work you do is for the grind, but you always have to carve out something for that yield that you didn't put anything in. So I'll leave that as a nugget. And that's how I create the future. That's how I can say, okay, today I'm going to reward myself with $1,000 back. It's because I made $1,000 without actually working for it. And I deserve it because that's my money that works for me. And so that's how you do it. That's how you create wealth. That's how you have
Yeah.
money for the future.
Oh my God, I love it. You gave so many nuggets in so many ways. So, but summarizing is pretty much to your point, like set aside a little bit. It doesn't matter how small you start. That's key is the discipline is creating this starting yesterday or today, right? And to your point, sometimes people don't see that even saving one Starbucks coffee a day can be your retirement. I mean,
Mhm.
and then when you start talking about the technical and tactical things about compound interest, asset types, this is when the world opens up in all the ways that the money can work for you while you are doing the other things you do. I love it. I love it. Leveraging money, making money work for you, my kind of thing. I love it. I love it. Now, I mean, we're getting to the end. I can talk to you forever, Tolu. It's like, but I mean, besides what we see, Tolu having this beautiful family, creating an opportunity, a safe space for other women and men in your community, for the Black community or Afro American community too. Tolu, what do you do for fun?
Yes, good question. Oh yes, I'm not always working. I'm not always. My biggest pastime these days is just hanging out with my little girl. I've got a 6-year-old. She loves the outdoors. She loves sports. So first of all, I just genuinely get a lot of energy just watching her, and us being creative together. That's the first thing. The second thing I do, I love to hang out with my girlfriends. So here in Dallas, I have a bunch of girlfriends that we try to meet up at least every quarter. We just go for brunch. We don't put our feet up and gossip. Sometimes we just do that. And I love to travel. So when I've done all the work, the US tends to feel like work. It feels like going to the farm. To be honest, I call it the farm. When I'm done at the farm, I go back to the farmhouse. But no, I love to travel. I love to put my feet up. I love to decompress and just explore the world. I have had the opportunity to live and work in different parts of the world. So yeah, just get on that plane and get out of the farm and go be me for a little minute. Just do all the things I love to do. I do a lot of creative stuff. Drawing, painting, singing, crafting, crocheting. So I do escape from time to time. So it's not all about the vision and the work and all that. And I'm looking forward to our summer holidays coming soon. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. I mean, we all need that distraction so we can come back with more energies. And
Mhm.
yeah, some of the things I'm terrible at crochet. I tried and I'm like, this is not for me, but I love painting and things like that. So yeah, we need our little world, our little bubble to nurture our relationship with ourselves and dedicate time to ourselves. So thank you for sharing that personal detail. Now, for people who want to connect with you, Tolu, what would be the best way to do so?
Yeah, so there's two ways. You can find me on LinkedIn if you are on LinkedIn. I know not everybody is so active on LinkedIn. It's Tolu Akindunni, as you said. Otherwise, you can just drop me an email. It's tolu.akindunni@blackandbee.com. That's the website as well. Blackandbee.com is the website. But if you wanted to reach me personally, it's tolu.akindunni@blackandbee.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tolu, for joining us, for sharing your story, for giving the audience golden nuggets in every aspect of life and business. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been fun. I love those questions. Thank you for sharing them with me. Like you put them on the spot, but I've really enjoyed answering them.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for being so open with all the answers to Tolu. I
Yeah,
know that our audience will love it. Thank you.
absolutely. All right. Well, thank you again.
You've been listening to Catch Her Spark with Jen Maldonado, where bold women lead the way. Ready to share your spark? Apply to be a guest at catchherspark.com/guest.